Baby Driver is Edgar Wright's newest film and his most recent since The World's End, and is his first true action-adventure movie. It is directed, as I just said, by Edgar Wright and stars the likes of Ansel Elgort, Lily James, Kevin Spacey, Jon Bernthal, Elza Gonzalez, Jon Hamm, Jamie Foxx. Crazy cast. So, I was very much looking forward to this movie. Edgar Wright is one of the best directors working today, I believe. I'll stand by that. His movies are A, some of the best comedies I've ever seen, and B, some of the most well-crafted movies in the last decade. And there's sort of a pretty high expectation for his movies, but it wasn't even just that for me. It was that this trailer, the first trailer for the movie, is absolutely spectacular. It's one of the few movies that I see the first trailer for, I say, I'm sold, and stay away from every other little bit of footage that they will release. I did that last year for The Accountant, and I never watched the trailer for The Arrival. I'm trying to do that more. I find it more fresh to watch a movie having never seen any kind of footage from it, except for the footage that you want to see. So, my expectations were, in a word, met. I love this movie. It is a very well done movie that is entertaining from start to finish. And if I had to describe this movie in one word, entertaining. This film is thoroughly entertaining. Above anything else, that's what it is. It is a thrill ride from beginning to end and never really lets up. And that's what the movie is trying to do at the end of the day. It's not as intelligent as Shaun of the Dead, or Hot Fuzz, or Scott Pilgrim, or The World's End, like Edgar Wright's other movies. It's probably lower than those in terms of quality. But I don't know if Edgar Wright was really gunning for that. I think he was genuinely just trying to make an incredibly enjoyable film, and that's what he did. This is not a incredible movie. This is a very good movie that most people that go to the theater are going to enjoy. It works for a number of reasons, and I'll get into why. The cast in this movie, I listed that long list of people. You've either heard of those people or you haven't, and if you haven't, other than Elza Gonzalez, you should check out their other works. They're all very good. And what's interesting is that I think a big part of the reason they all work in this movie is simply because they're so well casted. You start looking at these characters and these specific roles, and you kind of realize there's no one else that you could see working in those characters. I find it very interesting that I read the only character, or the only actor that was at the original table read that made it into the final film was Jon Hamm, because all of these actors fit these roles so perfectly. Jamie Foxx is Bats, Kevin Spacey is Doc, Ansel Elgort is Baby. These characters and these actors just fit together, and that really enhances their performances because they're all great. They're all very entertaining to watch on screen. They all bring some kind of light to their characters that it doesn't seem like any other actor would be able to bring. So you have to give credit to Edgar Wright and the casting directors for picking these people to come in and play these roles, and then you have another layer of credit to give to these actors for actually bringing these very interesting, funny, and charismatic characters to life, because that's a big reason this movie works. That's a big reason that people are going to walk out of the theater going, there was something extra to this movie than any other generic action movie. And that doesn't just come from the performances, that comes from Edgar Wright. As I said, he's one of the most talented directors working now, and without him, this movie really kind of becomes a generic action movie. Other than the performances, his direction is really what's elevating this movie to something new, to something original, to something fresh to watch, because there's so much going on in this movie that you wouldn't see in something like the Fast and the Furious movies. That's why this movie is different. That's why it's so much more entertaining than those kinds of movies. There are gimmicks and there's flair in this movie that just sets it aside and makes it something special. You don't see movies like this very often. You see movies like this that make what makes it special, they're not in it. It's hard to explain. It's a movie that's in its own ballpark, and that's what's so great about it. Edgar Wright makes that so important in all of his works, but especially in this one, when he's trying to take a genre in which we're starting to see a lot of formulas coming to light, when he's trying to make his own work out of that. And he really, really, really succeeds in this movie. The whole thing about the music and Baby listening to the music is incredibly done. The soundtrack in this movie alone is great, and it's a little bit of everything. It's not like something like Guardians of the Galaxy or even Goodfellas that have like this set style of music, which is fine. If you want to do that, that works. It works for both of those movies. But this one goes even further beyond that and has a little stretch of everything, and they make it really work within the movie. And that's a very important part of this. The screenwriting is great in this movie. It's great. It can go perfectly from being funny to being dramatic to just simply being entertaining. And that's a very important thing to do when you're making a movie like this, because comedy with these characters will add to them, and seeing as Edgar Wright is one of the best comedy writers working now, it works, obviously. The strong majority of comedy lands in this movie. I only remember one or two jokes that I kind of didn't laugh at because they just weren't necessary, and then there are some really great dramatic sequences or intense sequences. Sometimes the two of them go hand in hand, because like I said, this movie is gripping from start to finish, and that comes with being intense. It's a movie that's going to leave you on the edge of your seat for the strong majority of its runtime, because it's constantly action-packed and gripping. So when you're able to reflect that in the screenplay and the dialogue between characters, seeing as these characters are very different from one another, it's interesting to see them interact with each other. And Edgar Wright's writing really comes to light through these characters, and then, again, another layer through the performances in this movie. Everything at one point or another seems to mesh very, very well. Everything seems to flow. And that's important for a movie like this. The movie feels very quick. It feels like scenes are rapidly happening, and sometimes that's a bad thing, but I think it was a good thing in this movie. It really adds to that, Baby's driving in 100 miles per hour. You feel like you're going fast through this movie, and that's really cool. It's a really cool tone and a really cool feeling that you get the whole movie, and I think that's very important to have. The only real issue I have with this movie, and it actually is what is stopping this movie from being incredible, is that it's just kind of, in a way, for being an original film, bare minimum. You have all of these things that set it aside, like the gimmicks and the visual flair and the characters and the dialogue. But it seems like at the majority of times in this movie, they don't build on it as much as there's potential for it to be. I think there could be another 15 minutes in this movie and we'd all be fine with it. They could build more on the witty dialogue, or the performances, or the interesting characters, or the relationships between the characters, or the storyline itself, or even add more of that gimmick, or more of the flair that Edgar Wright is incorporating into this movie, or even more violence, because this movie is crazy violent. It's ridiculous. People just get destroyed and demolished in this movie. I think in every single little aspect for this movie, there was room for more. There was an extra layer waiting to be reached, but Edgar Wright almost seemed as though he was primarily focused on making it entertaining than an incredible piece of filmmaking. It's an original piece of filmmaking, but I wouldn't call it an incredible one. I'd call it an entertaining one. This movie's not going to be getting any Oscars, and it's got a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes for a reason, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's an incredible piece of filmmaking. It's an entertaining one with room for improvement. That's how I would sum this movie up for you. It is incredibly entertaining, and I think any audience is going to enjoy it. I would highly recommend getting out to the theater to see this movie. It's original and deserves money, more so than the movies that are really making money, like Transformers. You'll see a review for that coming very soon. I think people nowadays are more so going to the movie theaters to be entertained, more than anything. And you're going to get that with this movie. Any audience will really like this movie. It is rated R, so you can't take your kids unless your kids are mature. It's really for violence and language or whatever. Fuck the MPAA. But get out to the theater to see this movie. You'll have a blast. I guarantee it. It is a thrill ride for the entire 2-hour runtime. Definitely check this one out. So, What did you guys think? Have you seen Baby Driver? Did you not see Baby Driver? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.